For some reason, I've always loved filming people while they pose for a camera, and this reminds me of yet another film that I've never made. It was set on the island of Jeju, which is located off the coast of South Korea. I remember the white cars, the black pigs, and the randomly dancing old people. I would have called the film Jeju, the land of dancing men. It's a mixture of old and of new, where the mountains are filled with super condos and ancient burial mounds. Many of the people still live in these huts with the thatched roofs, but they're not entirely primitive. And all around the island you see these piled walls of stone. They're all pieces of volcanic rock from the island's many volcanoes. Now these clusters of rocks are offered up as prayers in a type of animistic religion. So if you're taking a walk through the nutmeg forest or any other part of nature on the island, you'll just happen upon one of these rock piles. If I had ever made this film, I would have talked about all of the fish. And I would have talked about this man's creative use of the black plastic bag. It's a bag that we would have revisited in the film, but used in a much different way. I would have made a scene about the famous women divers of Jeju. They go scuba diving off the shores and bring up their food, set up shop right on these beaches. They serve it with red sauce and a rice alcohol, and you sit on the rocks with your friends and eat it. Yeah. If I had ever made this film, I would have shown things like the local bar called The Guy with the Big Liver, stalactites and stalagmites in the world's longest volcanic cave, tangerines, heated toilet seats, a green tea museum documenting the many uses of this product. And here's how the tea leaves are actually grown. Had I made this film, I definitely would have talked about the food. The fresh meat stir fries and the black pig newly killed with the skin still on it. Fish, mushroom stir fry, pheasant soup, bibimbap, buckwheat pancakes, more black pig, sweet treats of rice cakes and nuts. If I had ever made this film, I would have felt stuck at this point. Do I show the cute kids with their matching backpacks visiting the national monuments? Or do I show typical street scenes where you can buy a variety of eels? I could have fit in a little footage of the retro 80s craze, especially the torn jeans. All around town you see these stages where teenagers get to sign up and perform dances or lip-sync songs in front of a crowd. And finally, I would try to tie up any loose ends with the dancing men and the black plastic bag. We had been at a folk art festival in the courtyard of a former palace on our last day. There were young people there and old people there, and in the midst of the performances, I'd look over to notice an old man who would periodically get up and dance. I also saw a boy with a black plastic bag who managed to entertain himself and his friend all afternoon. So instead of watching the concert, I found myself watching these characters. Reminded me of the creative process at its best, those stretches of lost time when you can amuse yourself endlessly. And for most of my life, I felt this. It's only when depression first crept into my life that I seemed to lose this ability to amuse myself and to make myself happy. I think that's the main reason that I never made this film.